Hi everyone. My name's Richard Hunt, and whilst completing my master's degree at Auckland Uni, I was drawn towards linking traction in the last planar system. On paper, it just made so much sense to me. I couldn't understand why at the time, with my limited practical experience, I couldn't grasp why it wasn't the industry norm. It got me thinking about the New Zealand construction industry and its issues with low productivity. It seemed so simple to me. Here's a system, here's the last planar system, and an innovation developed to reduce workflow variability and increase planning reliability, which had been extensively studied around the world and its benefits documented. So why did it appear that the New Zealand industry was not taking to it with great enthusiasm? My ignorance toward this question was the foundation stone for this research. After further reading, I found that a key contributor to the construction industry's low and stagnant productivity rates could be directly attributed to the industry's aversion to change and low uptake of innovation. This research attempts to address a gap in the literature by linking research undertaken by linking the last planar system to research undertaken on the challenges of construction innovation. The research has three aims. Firstly, to highlight the complexities of innovation within the construction industry and contextualise it within the New Zealand setting. Secondly, to prove the assumption that knowledge levels of lean construction and the last planar are low in New Zealand. And thirdly, to assess if the last planar system could be widely adopted across the New Zealand industry. The research was separated into two phases. Phase one being a literature review, exploring innovation in the construction industry, while phase two employed the use of a questionnaire and semi-structured interview to assess the research objectives. It was anticipated that there would be a general lack of knowledge around lean construction in the last planar system. As such, two sets of interviews questions were prepared, one for those familiar and one for those unfamiliar with the terms. In order to obtain relevant insight from those unfamiliar with the last planar system, a 20-minute presentation was prepared on the topic. 3 interviews were undertaken with contractors, 3 with consultants, and 3 with construction investment groups. Interviewees were all directors or high-level managers from within the organisations. The contractor and consultant interviewees came from businesses that would be classed as Tier 2 within the New Zealand environment, having between 100 and 400 staff. This group was chosen as anecdotal evidence suggested that Tier 1 contractors within the New Zealand industry had already started adopting lean construction. Limitations of the research included the small sample size of the study, the range of industry stakeholders interviewed, and the use of a presentation to deliver information about the last planar system. The research was exploratory in nature, attempting to gain insights into ideas which had been given little attention within the New Zealand industry. First, I will present the findings on the literature review around construction innovation. The construction industry is vastly more complex than most. At the institutional level, the industry is fragmented, made up of many diverse professions, trades, and organisations. While at the operational level, firms are almost exclusively project-based and undertake complex tasks. These complexities inhibit the spread of innovative practices both within and between firms, while impacting an organisation's ability to learn from experience and develop innovation from within. The introduction of innovation within a project adds a significant degree of risk to the implementing organisation. The nature of construction and the expectation of durability and quality does not provide a happy breeding ground for innovation. Traditional forms of construction contract also inhibit the spread of innovation. Design bid build and design build contracts, which are procured based on the lowest price method, provide little incentive for innovation to flourish. Construction firms, especially contractors, are constantly innovating at a local level, developing solutions to site-specific problems. These local innovations may save time or money within a specific project. However, the development of innovation into marketable products is rare. Innovation remains hidden due to a lack of formal R&D in all but the largest firms. Universities, as knowledge creators, play a major role in the development of innovation in the construction industry through both basic and applied research. In spite of this, the industry views universities as one of the least important sources of information. In the UK, there are seen to be many systematic and cultural differences between universities and industries, which limit successful collaboration and development of construction innovation. Manufacturers, as suppliers of products and tools, have traditionally been viewed as a primary source of construction innovation. These firms operate in a more stable environment and standardised environment, the end result being sustained investment in R&D, which stimulates the innovation process. Clients are vital in driving construction innovation. They are able to exert influence pressure on stakeholders to improve project performance and demand higher standards. This acts as a catalyst for consultants and contractors to seek new strategies. The more experienced and technically competent the client, the greater influence they can have over the innovation agenda of a project. Industry relationships are seen as significant to the diffusion of knowledge throughout the industry. The wider and more diverse an individual's professional network, the greater exposure they have to new ideas. Increased attendance of diverse and high-quality networking events which link academia and multiple sectors of the industry greatly enhance the diffusion of ideas. At the project level, strong relationships between contractors and consultants can see innovation flourish. If firms and individuals are able to engage from project to project, the higher the chance of inter-project and organisational learning. On to the results and discussion. The most important communication channel for the discovery of new innovation was stated by all participants as industry relationships, strongly agreeing with the literature. All participants attended industry seminars and conferences. However, these were largely confined to their specific areas of expertise, another example of the fragmented and complex nature of the industry. 4 participants had employees sporadically working on innovation, while none had a dedicated R&D team. None of the participants read academic publications, suggesting that the New Zealand industry places a low level of significance on information produced within academic institutions. The idea that academics have the ability, this won't go down very well in the room, the idea that academics have the capability to achieve significant change within such a practical industry with heavily ingrained methodologies was raised by a number of the participants. There was an interesting split between the consultant and contractor participants as to the importance of the client as a driver of innovation. Consultants saw the client as being vitally important, reiterating that the experience and technical knowledge of the client was influential on the design outcomes and the incorporation of new innovation. Contractors largely did not see the client as exerting influence over their innovation agenda. More trust is held between consultants and clients, whilst contractors are left on the outside. The contractor participants confirm this, stating a common feeling of being thought of as low-level tradespeople by the professional practices. This is an unfortunate cultural aspect that predominates the industry, creating a further innovation void. The construction industry is also susceptible to the macroeconomic effects which bring about the boom and bust cycles. These pronounced cycles appear to be a barrier to the adoption of innovation, with 4 participants stating that implementing new innovation within the current boom was made a lot more difficult. It is believed that lean construction and the last planner is currently confined to a small number of the largest commercial and civil contractors within the New Zealand market and is yet to widely diffuse throughout the industry. All of the consultant and owner participants were not at all familiar with the terms lean construction and the last planner. 1 contractor was not at all familiar, 1 was slightly familiar, and the 3rd was moderately familiar, having had practical experience using the last planner on 1 project. The wider social systems in which organisations operate have not yet embraced the lean construction philosophy, meaning that through the communication channels open to them, the innovation has not been spread. This deduction is made on the finding that each participant, as a high-level manager, maintains wide-reaching professional networks, all read industry-related publications, and attend numerous industry-related conferences per year. A distinct lack of knowledge and understanding about lean construction across the wider industry is therefore inferred. There was, however, positive feedback on the concept of the last planner system as it was presented to participants, with all participants stating that the system could improve their organisation and specific projects that they are working on, with 7 participants stating that they would investigate further into lean construction in the last planner. The positivity was diminished somewhat. when when asked further for their thoughts on practical implementation. Implementation of the master plan was thought to present the most challenges. This was based on the ingrained culture of mistrust between consultants and contractors. Traditional methods of procurement inhibit early contractor involvement required within the master plan, with one consultant stating, "The big and experienced contractors are very careful of being open, lest they disclose where they may be able to achieve variations." This view was shared by contractors, with one stating, "A lot of contractors would say, I don't want to pass over my intellectual property to a designer." Two contractors stated that the early involvement was fraught because engineers and architects believed themselves to be superior to contractors. Being treated on a similar level and having their concepts and ideas taken seriously wasn't something they were accustomed to. If the implementation of the last planner is to be achieved in New Zealand from project initiation, stakeholders need to keep an open mind to relational forms of contract, which enhance cooperation. This includes alliancing, which has been proven to be successful in New Zealand since the 1990s, and integrated project delivery, which combines a relational contracting approach with lean construction principles. The participants believed that reverse phase scheduling would be the most straightforward tool to implement, thinking that the project team could be brought together in the post-tender stage of a traditional contract. To create relevant and workable programs. The implementation of the look-ahead and weekly work plans were viewed by participants with scepticism. There was a disconnect between stakeholders as to whose responsibility it should be to manage the perceived additional workload and cost on top of traditional planning systems. All parties were worried of the buy-in required from stakeholders and saw this as a limiting factor to successful implementation. Two interviewees stated that implementation should be client-driven, as they would be the ultimate benefactor of reduced project cost and running times. All participants, bar one, thought that widespread adoption of the last planner as a fully integrated across the New Zealand system of the New Zealand construction industry was an extremely difficult proposition. In conclusion, the research found that the adoption of innovation within the New Zealand construction industry is fraught with the same complexities which see slow rates of innovation within the construction industry the world over. These complexities see the status quo maintained and only gradual achievements achieved over time. The study suggests that knowledge levels of lean construction and the last planner are low, and that there is a great deal of apprehension about widespread adoption. If New Zealand is to see improvements in construction productivity, it is proposed that increased adoption of lean construction principles are needed. This paper presents 4 strategies to advance the diffusion and adoption of lean construction throughout the industry. Number 1 is improved platforms of engagement between academia and industry. This would enhance networking as a means to incubate research collaboration on lean construction. A greater role played by universities in facilitating adoption, largely through the undertaking of empirical research to demonstrate that the benefits are not just confined to overseas situations. The government becoming a driver of lean construction. This could be done through promoting awareness across the industry, as a sponsor of academic research, or through incentivising its use within the industry. Ultimately, change needs to be industry-driven. However, due to the economic benefits of improved construction productivity, a proactive approach should be taken by central government. Little research has been undertaken on the marketing and advertising of lean construction and the last planner system as a means of improving its diffusion throughout an industry. Much could be done to increase the flow of lean construction knowledge in New Zealand. The incorporation of lean construction principles and the last planner as standard practice within New Zealand could see a hugely positive transformation of its industry. As well as boosting productivity, it would serve as a driver of industry-wide innovation growth. Thank you very much.